Oh, good grief. Anyone want to come find this thing for me? Hey guys, I just wanted to start this video out by saying a big thank you to all of my subscribers out there. I've actually just hit my first small milestone of hitting 1,000 subscribers, and it's because of you guys that I'm actually making these videos still. So thank you so much. I really appreciate all of it. So today I'm going to show you how to make this captured rhinestone heart pendant. And what I mean by captured is this, where you can see this rhinestone is not coming out of here. It's not a bead. It's just a free floating rhinestone that's captured within the wire. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So here you can see there's a little loop there on the back of that rhinestone that the point sets down into, and then the wire wraps around the top edge of the rhinestone to trap it in. And I'll show you more about that here in just a few minutes. But today this is what we're making, this cute little heart pendant with rhinestone. You can do different color rhinestones like birthstones colors. That would be really cute. You could do red for Valentine's Day, or just whatever color you would like to match your wardrobe or whatever you'd like to do. Okay, let's get started with some materials here. First, we're going to need some 20 gauge wire. You could do whatever color wire you'd like to use, but we're going to start with silver 20 gauge wire. And I've pre-cut a piece at about 15 centimeters long. So slightly longer than 15 centimeters, but close enough. And then next we're going to get some 24 gauge wire for wrapping, and we're going to measure out 10 centimeters of this wire, and here you can see I pre-cut that as well. Also, we're going to need a jump ring. This is a 4.5 millimeter jump ring. I'm going to show you how to make this jump ring, so you can either have a pre-made one or learn how to make your own. Oh, good grief. Anyone want to come find this thing for me? So now that I've finished digging this thing out from under my desk, here is the next item, which is a rhinestone. The size of this is SS28 or 6 millimeter round rhinestone with foil backing. Again, you can get this in any color you'd like for this project. So next you're going to need some pliers, and these are my chain nose pliers, a little worn for wear, but they still work, so I still use them. They've come in very handy. Next I'm going to need these round nose pliers, and on here you can see I've made a little marking with a Sharpie marker. I'll explain what that is in a little bit here. You're also going to need a pair of flush cutters. These are called flush cutters because they have a flat side, and these will cut your wire nice and flush. I'm also going to use this chasing hammer, which is optional in this project, but I do like to use this in a lot of my jewelry. And a bench block to hammer the wire on. Next, you're going to need a mandrel. This is a 4.5 millimeter round brass rod. As you can see, this is a hollow brass rod, but it works great for a mandrel for making jump rings and that sort of thing. I'm also going to use this pen. This measures to be about an 8 millimeter wide mandrel. And as I've stated in previous videos, you can use just about anything in your home for mandrels. You don't need to go out and buy expensive equipment to make these sort of rings and things with mandrels. So we're going to start off doing our rhinestone capture. On the back side here, you could see there is a small loop that the point of the rhinestone is captured into. And that little loop is going to be in a counterclockwise rotation as we start. So let's get started with that. We're going to start with this 20 gauge wire that we pre-cut. And this little line is what I made to measure the size of that first loop I want to do, which is about 1/3 of the way down my pliers. You may have to kind of fiddle around with it to see what fits best in your rhinestone. But here you can see I'm doing that counterclockwise rotation around that round nose plier. And there's that loop. So see here, it's counterclockwise. And then I'm going to take my rhinestone and set that down into that loop. And as you can see, it just kind of sits down into that little loop. So this next part is a little bit tough. You kind of have to hold on to it between your index finger and thumb, which I'm going to show you here. So there you can see between my index finger and thumb. And I'm going to take the tail of this wire now up and around the top part of my rhinestone. I had a little bit of trouble doing this part. I put some lotion on before I did this video, so y'all don't have to look at my dry, crusty hands. But that kind of was to my detriment. I ended up having a lot of problem with some slippage here, so bear with me as I get this around the top of this rhinestone. So lesson learned, don't put lotion on right before you're going to do wire work. Your fingers will just slip all over the place. Sometimes we just have to learn the hard way. Anyhow, here you can see the wire is coming up over the top little edge of that rhinestone. You don't want it in the middle of it, just barely over the top lip of that rhinestone. And you can see how I'm getting it to kind of go around the edge there. And again, it feels like I'm just going around and around here. And you will see that I barely made a little bit of progress there. So that is because of that slippage I was talking about. But we'll get it. It's coming. So there we're getting about halfway across there. Since we're talking about lessons learned, what kinds of lessons have you guys learned with wire wrapping, making, jewelry, or even just general life lessons have you learned recently that would be fun to share? Go ahead and drop a comment below and just share something that you might have learned recently. It's always fun to hear other people's lessons they've learned as well. We can all learn from each other. So here you can see that wrap coming back around to the top, right around that top edge of the rhinestone. Again, you want to make sure that it's over the top edge of that rhinestone, not next to it or under it. You want it just barely over the top edge. And then we're going to take that wrap all the way to intersect with the other part of that wrap that started around the top edge of that rhinestone. And see there, you can see it's all the way around there. Just lined up almost evenly with that little where it starts there. And here I'm just going to finish that up and really pull it around just a little bit more. I wanted to make sure that I get it all the way around there, that rhinestone is in fact trapped. And there you can see I dropped it and it did stay in there, so I know it's in there pretty good. And here I'm going to show you in just a minute. There you go. That is not coming out. It's in there good. So now we're just going to get ready for the next part. I'm going to straighten my wire out. And we're going to start shaping the heart pendant, part of the pendant. So here I'm just going to show you how this matches up with the previous one I've already made. So here you can see that above the rhinestone in here, I've got a little space right there, and that's there on purpose so I could get my wraps around the end there to tie the piece together. So you do want this little space on the back side of this rhinestone, or the top side of the rhinestone. So I'm going to start shaping the heart for this pendant. A lot of times when I'm making these pieces, I'll have an original piece that I will shape my piece after. But if I'm starting off for the first time, I will make a little drawing and try to match the wire up with that drawing. So if you have difficulty trying to get the shape right, or if you want to make sure both sides are even, you can make a little drawing on a piece of paper and start that way and just kind of follow those lines. In this case, I'm matching it up to my original piece here and getting an idea of what I need to do. So here the rhinestone is out away from the frame a bit, but I did that kind of on purpose because it's easier to shape it away from the rhinestone and then push that rhinestone back into that frame. So there you can see that I'm doing it there. And then wrapping it around like this. So then I get that little bit of a space for my wraps to get in and around there. So there you can see it matches up a little bit with my other one. They're not always going to be exactly perfect, and that's okay. These are handmade. They're going to be different. That's what makes them special. So now I'm going to grab at about where I think that crease for the heart should be, and then bend my tail end of that wire up to start the next little bump of the heart, whatever you call that. And I'm just going to straighten out and get a nice crease there. And there you can see it looks about right. So there I'm just kind of bending it up a little bit more. And now I'm going to grab my mandrel, or in this case my pen. It's about 8 millimeters. And it's not perfectly the same size as the other side, but it's close enough. And I can always adjust the shape and size. So here I'm getting that top part of the heart shaped. And see, I'll show you here, it is a little bit bigger than that actual part of the heart, but it is very close. So I'm going to take that and kind of move it down a little bit, roll it down so that the top parts of the heart are even with one another. And then I will make the adjustments I need to kind of make it look the same as the other side. And here you can see I've pretty closely achieved that. I'm going to straighten out the tail end of this wire. And I'm just going to show you how close of a match that is. It's pretty close. So I'm going to make the adjustments I need to. Like that. And then I'm I'm going to straighten this wire again and get a little bitty kink there that I don't want in there. There we go. And now I think I'm liking that shape much better. So as you can see, this will match up a little bit better with my original. There you go. And now I'm going to find the pointed end of this heart. So there you can see I'm grabbing just below it, and then with my left hand I'll grab above it and slide my chain nose pliers right up where I'd grabbed above it. And see here where my finger will line up nicely with that side of the heart. You can kind of get an idea of where that's going to go. Now I'm going to bend that up, and there you can see how it's looking. So I'm going to take this end and bend it around the top part of the right side of this heart. I'm going to bend that back over, like so. And there you can see it just kind of follows that right side of the heart. Now I'm going to cut off the excess end of this tail wire, and I want to make my little loop, which is shown here, for the heart to hang on the chain. And with my flush cutters, I'm going to cut just about above where the crease of that heart is. So as you can see here, it kind of lines up right directly with that crease, and I'm going to cut it right there. And with my round nose pliers, I'm going to grab the tail end of that wire and try to be in shot here for y'all. So let me show you again. Grabbing the tail end of the wire and roll that around until that tail end meets back with the wire. And sometimes that takes some readjusting of those pliers to get it to come all the way back. So there's that loop, and I kind of want it to be up a little bit more so it's more centered on that side of the, I don't know what you call that, right hand side of the lump of the heart, but there it looks a little bit better being right there. And adjusting the rhinestone to sit. Now see here, I'm showing you this rhinestone, I'd push it all the way back up, and it looks really good like that, but I cannot get my wraps down in there to do that. So I'm going to pull it back out and show you the reason I do this here in just a minute. So there it is again, it's pulled out. Just enough to allow for the wraps to get in there. So there's the finished frame. And here is the 24 gauge wire. We're going to take that and come up through the bottom and push that shorter tail end over the top of both the wires. So you're grabbing not only the captured part, but the back part of that pendant as well. So there's two wires you're wrapping together. And then you're going to pull it all the way furthest down as you can, and then start with one wrap, pulling it tight, then two wraps, pull that tight, pushing it down as we go, straightening the wire. There's three wraps. and 4 wraps. And 5. Generally, I like to do 5 wraps around there because it makes it nice and strong and tight. So then I took my tail end and wrapped it around, and then I realized, wait, that makes 6 wraps. I usually just like to do 5. The 6 is just a bit too much for my liking. You can leave it there, but I decided to unwrap that last wrap because I just like the way it looks with just 5. And that last wrap was just sticking up a little bit, and I like them to be tied up against the frame. And there we go. I'm going to take the flush cutters and cut off my little tail ends as close to the frame as possible without cutting any other wires. And now take my chain nose pliers and tuck that little end down into the frame so that we don't have anything sticking out or poking anyone. And we're going to cut off this end of the wire as well. And again, push that wire down, kind of burnish it against the frame there. Sorry, I'm out of frame once again. There we go. And now that those wraps are on there, we're going to take that rhinestone and push it up into that space as much as we can with those wraps. So there you can see it's tucked up against there nice and tight. And now that frame is complete. So now I like to add a little extra flair to this. You can leave it this way, but I like to add a little bit of hammering to it. One, it just hardens the wire a bit so that it doesn't come apart. And I like to do my little loop, so I'm doing that first so it doesn't open up on anyone while they're wearing it. And when you do hammer these, it does spread the wire apart, so we're going to take the round nose pliers and pull it back together nice and tight like that. And then I'm going to hammer the rest of the frame that I can hammer. Obviously, you need to be careful with the rhinestone. You don't want to smash it. It will break. And as I hammer this frame, I'm flaring out away from the piece. That just gives it a little extra flair. The nice thing about hammering them is it just gives a little bit of shine, extra shine. Has more surface for the light to catch, and so it just gives it a nice little look. And after it's all polished, it really shines well. So here we're going to do any minor adjustments after hammering. Of course, everything likes to spread out a bit. There you can see how that light catches on that flattened wire. And that piece is about to be finished. Now notice this one's a little bit bigger than the other one, and again, that's okay. They're all different. That's what makes making jewelry unique and one of a kind. So now I'm going to show you how to make a jump ring. You might already have your own jump rings, but I always like to show how to make them in case you don't have any. So this is 18 gauge wire, and this mandrel is a 4.5 millimeter hollow brass mandrel that I have, and I'm going to take that wire and wrap it around completely once, plus pass just a little bit more. And then taking the wire off the mandrel, you could see that nice little loop I've created. So with the flush side of my flush cutters, from the tail end of the wire, I'm going to make my first cut so that that end of the wire is flush. Now I'm going to take the flush side and flip it and cut the opposite side of this loop flush. like that. And here you can see both those ends are nice and flush cut, so they'll meet up perfectly when we go to close this ring. Now with my chain nose and my bent chain nose pliers, I'm going to twist this open. Always twist your jump rings open, never pull them apart. And then do the same, twist it closed. And twisting it will harden that wire. And now we're going to go past and come back until it meets again, and you can see there it's met together almost perfectly. And now we're ready to add our chain onto this piece. So now I'm going to grab my snake chain that I use. I usually use silver snake chain for my pieces. This one is a 20-inch snake chain. And I'm going to thread that through. I like to put the clasp on the right-hand side because most people are right-handed, and a left-handed person can switch it around if they'd like to do that to the other side. And there is the completed pendant. It really turned out so cute. I hope you all enjoyed this. Please let me know in the comments below if you did, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it. All comments are welcome. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see y'all again the next time. Bye.